Hey guys, for this week's activity, I decided to do activity number 2, and that was Bandura's 3 kinds of model learning. So it's basically teaching somebody how to do something that they didn't previously know how to do using his theory. So the thing that I chose to do is teach my husband how to make a ball out of paper. So first of all, he was being a stink and he didn't want to help me with this. So yeah, I talked him into it, but he was being a turd. So the 3 models of learning are live, which is demonstrating the behavior in person. Verbal is explaining how to do something, and then symbolic is like fictional characters or real people who demonstrate behaviors in movies, books, TV, video games, any of those things. So when I was teaching him how to make this ball out of paper, I thought it would be kind of fun to use verbal first and see how that went. So the first thing I just told him I gave him a piece of paper and I told him to make the piece of paper a perfect square. Which in my head, I have an idea of what he's supposed to do. And this is what he did. He did make it a perfect square, but it wasn't what he was supposed to do to be able to make this ball. So I guess for me, with the verbal, I learned that I think I get frustrated because I'm explaining and I have a picture in my head, but he's never done it before, so he doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing. So it's not fair for me to get frustrated, but I do get frustrated. So maybe verbal is not a good way for me to teach something. So after he did this, it was kind of like you can't make the ball anymore. So then I did live. So I was making the ball myself while he was making his, and I would just explain to him the next step, and we would do it at the same time together. So during the making of the ball, I thought that it was going really well. His looked similar to mine. And then we got towards the end, and he had messed up somewhere in the beginning, so then it was ruined, and we couldn't make the ball out of his. So this is how his turned out, and this is what we were supposed to make. So this is how mine turned out. So the things that it talks about in the reading is attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. So attention is being focused on the model. Retention is being able to retain and remember the information. Reproduction is being able to perform the behavior. And motivation is just having the motivation and the want to copy the behavior. So with the attention, like I explained in the beginning, my husband was being a stink and he didn't really want to help me out. So it was hard to get his attention, but I did convince him to help me. So I eventually got his attention. So he was focused on me and what I was doing. The retention is being able to retain and remember. I think that he was able to retain the information, maybe not 100% correctly because his ball did not turn out. But he was able to retain some of the information, I should say. Reproduction is being able to perform the behavior. So he was able to perform most of the activity while I was doing it and while I was explaining to him. But if I were to tell him to make it again, there's no way he would be able to. Or I guess make it at all because his first one didn't turn out. And then the last one, motivation. So motivation and the want to copy the behavior. Like I said in the beginning, he didn't want to help me out. So I think where we went wrong from the beginning was that he didn't have the motivation and he didn't want to help me out or copy my behavior. So he didn't really care if his ball turned out or if he learned how to make a ball or anything like that. So I think that he, like I said, was lacking the motivation. So in the questions, it says, discuss what you observed in your student. My student was not a very good student because he didn't want to learn. He was lacking that motivation. I did notice, like, throughout the activity, though, that he thought he was doing well. So, I don't know, maybe he didn't have as bad of an attitude during. And then at the end, when his didn't turn out and mine did, he was like, hey, that's really cool. So, that's what I observed in my student. And then what you observed in yourself is kind of what I said earlier, is that I just get frustrated. It's just frustrating when first of all, when you don't have somebody that's motivated to want to copy your behavior or learn. But also just like when it doesn't turn out, I get kind of frustrated. So I guess, I'm not a very good teacher because I do get frustrated really easy. Just like I'm a mom, and if me and my daughter are doing a craft or something, I don't have the patience to just sit there and watch her do her own thing. I get frustrated and anxious, and I have to help her with whatever she's doing so that it turns out well, which I should let her be creative and do her own thing. But anyway, that's where I get frustrated teaching. So it also asks, do you think one is more important than the other? Which, I'm sorry, I just realized that I asked that in number 3 activity. But I do feel like motivation is very important in all of these things, because from the beginning, my husband didn't have the motivation and it didn't turn out well for us. So I do feel like motivation is the key, and it's really important to have when you're trying to learn something or when you're trying to teach something. And then I also feel like live or symbolic is probably the easiest because you can see. I think a lot of people work best when they are able to visually see things. Anyway, the question I had for you guys is there a step that you think is most important? Like I felt like motivation is super important in this, so then therefore, do you feel like there's one step in teaching that's more important than the others?